Okay, Ji, let's begin the lesson. And today we'll be talking about the arrays. And we will discuss the arrays and the key concepts attached to the arrays, the types of the arrays, and then the uh, the example of the arrays or the working with the arrays, like with the linear search and with the bubble sort. So let's begin. The very first thing that you need to know is about the key concepts of the arrays. So arrays, when we say arrays are the set of consecutive memory locations. Set of consecutive memory locations to hold data of same type. Okay. So actually array is, we can say, the example array, we also called arrays as list. So you know the list in which we have multiple cells. Now talking about the key concepts of the arrays, the key things that you need to understand about the array. If we have, let's say, cells 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we have 8 cells. Now let's say this is an array and we call it a list, and its size is 8, and in this array you can see it is a collection of cells and which are called elements. So these cells are called elements. Okay, so every cell here will call it an element. So you can see array is a set of elements, set of cells. This is also called element, or it is also called cells. The other thing is that each element in the array will be identified with a number like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay? So every element of array is referred by a number which is called index. That number is called index. Okay, so now like the index which is starting from 1 till 8, or we can also write from 0 till 7. In AS you can refer the index from 1 to 8 because of the pseudocodes, and in A level when you will be writing it in the coding, you can refer to the default references from 0 to onward. Okay. The third thing here is that in the array, it is important that all elements will have store data of same type. Okay, so the data must be of the same type. Then the other very important thing, that in each array These two cells are very important. The first one is called the lower bound, and the last one is called upper bound. So the starting element is called the lower bound and the ending element is called the upper bound. Okay, so this is important. Just a minute.
Sir, I can't hear you.
Is it okay?
Yes, sir.
जी सुभान क्या हाल है?
ठीक सर.
So the upper bound and the lower bound, these are important in the array, and their indexes, their numbers, these are the key terms. Okay. Now coming toward the same things, so we have seen arrays, set of consecutive memory location, elements, index, lower bound, upper bound. Yes, one more thing is the length of the array. And there is a length of array. Length of the array is actually the size of the array or the total number of elements in the array. Okay. Now moving to the next point. Now as we have seen arrays, now talking about arrays type, one is called 1D array and the other is called 2D array. Okay, one dimensional array is shown like this. We can show it like vertically and we can also show it horizontally. But 2D array is shown in 2 dimensions. So in 1D array we have cells like 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, and in 2D array we have the rows 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we have the columns 1, 2. So this is 1D and 2D array. In 1D array we call it like list from, for example, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We call it from 1 to 6. So in 2D array we have 2 dimensions, like we have the columns 1, 2, 3 and 4, and we have the rows 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, for example. So now how will we write it? We write, if it is 2D array list, and then 1 to 5 and 1 to 4. So this 1 to 5 is the rows and 1 to 4 is the column. So 1D array is the array in one dimension, and 2D array is an array with two dimension, means x and y. Here we have one dimension, x. Okay, so 2D array, they are also called, 1D array is usually called list, while 2D array is usually called a table. Okay, so here we have only x, and here we have x and y. So this is the basic thing that you should remember while talking about the arrays with their various types. And the other thing, for both of them, the 1D array or the 2D array, when we work with them, we use one in order to go to each element. That is called array, for array manipulation. When we want to manipulate the array, we use one for next loop. But in 2D array, the array manipulation requires a nested for loop. So we'll be using nested for loop in 2D array. So these are the key concepts, key things that you should remember. Now this is how I explained array types, that is 1D array, which is list, and 2D array, which is a table. Okay, now coming toward the arrays manipulation. Manipulation means processing the data in the array. How we process the data into the array, that is called manipulation. Okay, so when we work with the array manipulation. In array manipulation, number one is arrays declaration, two is declaration and also initialization. Initialization means giving the initial values to the array elements. The second is populating. We populate the array. Populate is also called filling values in each element is called populating. And third is we process the arrays, and in process we can add, we can search, we can count, we can compare each element of array. So we are doing the stuff, we are doing the things with the arrays. And number four is that again we printing array means show or output the contents of array. Okay, now for each of these, like populating, processing and printing, we use the pseudocode construct for next. More likely we use for next, which is more appropriate Okay, otherwise we can use the while and while as well, but because we know that in the array we know the time, we know the locations, we know the elements of the array, so it is better that we use the for next. But for, as I said before, the 2D array will require the nested for loop. Okay, so this is how we, okay, now coming to the next thing, and that is how we declare the array. Number one is, I have already written these things. Now if you see the declaration, how we declare the array, the declaration is done like this. I will just make it little larger so that you can check it. Declare my list, and it is array, and it is from, let's say, 0 to 4. When we say 0 to 4, it means 5 element including 0 and 4. And if this is 1D array, so 1D array is declared like this, and 2D array is declared like this, like my table array, and x is 0 to 4 and y is 0 to 2, and this is the type integer. So this is the declaration of 1D array and 2D array both. Then how we initialize? Initialize means giving an initial value. So if the array is of type integer, it will be initialized with 0. For real, it is 0. For string, initialization is with the double inverted commas, means an empty character. And for char, it can be single apostrophe when we are writing pseudocode. And if it is a Boolean type array, then the initial value can be true or false. Okay. So like the array, we declare 1D array when we declare like my list, which is of type Boolean. So this is how we initialize it. My list 0 is false, my list 1 is false, my list 2 is false, 3 is false, 4 is false. So we have to go to each element by referring its appropriate and its related index number. So these 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 are the index number. So we have to go on it, and then we declare it. And we initialize it. Initialize means giving an initial value that can be changed. Okay, that we can change, yes, but it is an initial value. Okay, then this is the 1D array. So if we see the 2D array, how to initialize a 2D array, like my table. Okay, now 2D array is important to see. For example, this is my table, and it has 4 rows and 5 rows and 3 columns. Now let's see, 5 rows and 3 columns, and this is an array. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, and 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and columns, 3 columns. So we have 0, 1 and 2, 0, 1, 2. So how we refer to each element? Here it is 0, 0, it is 0, 1, it is 0, 2. This is 1, 0, 1, 1, 1, 2, 2, 0, 2, 1, 2, 2, 3, 0, 3, 1, 3, 2, 4, 0, 4, 1, 4, 2. So this is how we refer to these locations. So for this we will use X, and for this we will use Y. So for X we said 0 to 4, and for Y we said 0 to 2. Okay, so this is my table, 0 to 4 and 0 to 2. this is how we declare a 2D. We initialize a 2D array. So now you can see a 2D array, my table 0 0, so giving an initial value. So we have given all elements an initial value. So this is the initialization of the array. Okay, and then we have the assignment, now giving populating. Assignment is actually populating the array, populating the array element with some values. These values can be taken from user as an input, or it can be assigned to each element by the programmer in program. So we can ask the user to enter this value, or we can assign it ourselves. Like in 1D array, for example, this is an example in which we set the array with initial values that we give in the program ourselves. And if we don't want to assign it ourselves, we want to ask the user to input, then we will use, okay, method 2, there is a method 2 as well. And what is that method 2? And that is, now let's say we write declare my list, and we'll put it empty. And this is yes, this is the, we write it like declare my list, array, and then we'll put empty and as integer, and then we can give values here. Like we can write 12, 5, 8, 15, 21. We can do like this. This is how we can do this. Okay, this is how we can give values in it as well. So this is the method 2. Then is the method 3. In method 3, we will ask the user to enter the values, and for that we will put a loop, and loop is on I, and we will put I inside the array element indexing. So in place of writing the numbers here, we will put I in it. So it will be referring to every loop. So initially it will be 0, so it will refer to 0, and the person, whatever he will input, will be stored here. And if it is 1, and so on, it will go till end. And how we enter data into the 2D array? Now you see this. This is when we are taking the data from the user. We are giving the data ourselves, not from the user. So we write 0 0 0 1 0 2 1 0 1 1 1 2 2 0 2 1 2 2 3 0, and so on. And in every cell we are entering, but this is not the appropriate way to enter the data. This is going to be, but if you have a fixed constant values, means you are given an initial values, you can write like this. But if you want to ask from the user, this is the method 2. As I said, it will be using the nested for loop. So loop within the loop. So what we will do, an outer loop like I 0 to 4, and then an internal loop j 0 to 2. So this loop is for rows, and the second loop is for columns. The second loop is for columns. Okay, so we can say, okay, in place of I we can write, this can be written like this, row, and we can also write columns. So here we'll write row, and here we'll write column. We can write column. Okay, so it can be done like this. So this is how to fill the 2D array. Okay, then fourth one is processing. And once the data is entered and filled into the array, as I said, it can be sum, multiply, compare, find, sort, and data stored in each element of the array. And two things that that is there in our syllabus, one is search and the other is sort. So that is the processing. So the search and sort is the example of processing. So each element of the array to find a number from it and arrange the data of array into ascending and descending order. And then once the list is processed, then you will be printing it. So in today's lesson, we have just understood the basic concepts of the array, and in the next lesson, I'll be explaining the process, these two processes like the search and the sort. Okay.